Well, greetings everyone, and welcome to our annual roundup of Christmas music and holiday um, tunes that are available in SuperScore on the iPad. My name is George Litterst. I'm speaking to you from cyberspace, from my little corner of cyberspace, I should say, which is in the little town of Rehoboth, Massachusetts. And it's always a pleasure to be here with live guests, or live attendees, I should say, as well as those who are going to be attending in a time shifted fashion. We will get this webinar posted on the TimeWarp Technologies website. So I have an awful lot to cover today, and for those of you who are attending live, if you would like to ask questions, I would invite you to use the Q&A panel, and I'll try to keep my eye on it as we go. But I have quite a number of things I'd like to cover today. And I'll just first mention that the opening tune that you heard, kind of a little fantasy on Deck the Halls by Christopher Norton, is published by Boozy and Hawks, and that's in a publication that is one of many that we will be looking at today. So as a pianist, as well as a piano teacher, I always look forward to this time of the year because it's such a wonderful point in time to be able to sit down at an instrument where you have some level of mastery and just be able to play the tunes that have important meanings and that are festive for the occasion. But as a piano teacher, I also have the advantage of being able to take the music of the season and use it productively with my students. In some cases, using Christmas music to help them advance their skills to the next level. And many of the albums that I'll show you today are very clearly arranged with the tunes grouped at particular levels. And you can find the level that's just right for your student at their current level, or the one that's going to push them to acquire some better playing skills. And oftentimes it's very useful to give them an album that's at a level that's a little bit below their technical playing ability, just so that they can sit down with almost no practice and enjoy playing. And so we're going to be covering music of all of these areas today. Now, what I would like to do is to start actually with just a little video that's it's rather informal, homemade video by the father of two of my piano students, done last year. These are two students that you'll be seeing doing a little duet rehearsal. They were engaged to play for a number of Christmas parties at a rather prominent event destination in Rhode Island last year. Had a very successful experience, and they learned most of their music from SuperScore. And you'll see both of them in this video at the piano playing. And if you look very closely, you'll notice that the boy who's on the lower side of the instrument playing the secondo part is doing the page turning with his foot using a wireless foot pedal. So I would like to show this to you. So let's move on over to this video. It's just about a minute. So a logical question comes up. Um, well, where did this music come from, and how would you find that particular piece, or any other piece for that matter, in SuperScore? And I'd like to start by giving you a little tour of the program. Now, if you've never used SuperScore before and you get it through the App Store on your iPad, and it is available as a free app on the iPad, you will go through an initial set of screens where you are offered the opportunity to read the documentation. And you don't have to do that, of course, but you won't be able to go and immediately buy anything because you'll get a little message on the screen saying you really have to open up a first score. And so you'll notice here on my iPad, I already have lots of um, publisher names that are listed in my library because I have acquired a lot of music in SuperScore over the years. If you were starting for the first time, though, the only folder that you would find in your library would be the sample scores folder. And if you were to go over to that folder and tap on, let's say, holiday music, you'd be able to bring something up like Jingle Bell Rock by Christopher Norton. And because you've opened up your first score, there would be a shopping cart button in the upper left corner of the screen, and that would enable you to go to the store and find things. And we're going to take a look at the store in just a moment. But since I've opened up this sample piece, which, as it says in the heading, comes from Boozy and Hawks, it's another Christopher Norton tune, I think we should listen to it. And this is a nice tune that actually has some play along backing tracks. And I'm going to stop it there. There are so many good things to go over today that I'm not going to be able to play most of them all the way through, I regret to say. But let's go and see how we find that particular piece. Now, when you tap the shopping cart button, it does take you to the store, and you'll notice there's an awful lot of publishers in the store. And you might wonder, well, where would I even start to find Christopher Norton's piece or Christmas music in general? And one good place you could start would be in the Browse category area. And right near the top, we've got many, many categories listed here, is that Christmas tree. And if you were to tap on that, you'd find out that in SuperScore, we do have Christmas music in a number of different categories: keyboard ensemble, piano duets, and piano solos, and even one nice album for recorder with backing tracks. And I'll be showing you a little bit of that today as well. But if we were to go into the piano solos area, we would see there's quite a number of albums here. Now, I had mentioned that these albums from Christopher Norton are published by Boozy and Hawks, and we could, of course, just get to that by tapping on Boozy and Hawks, and we would notice that there's a micro jazz Christmas collection from beginner to intermediate level. And when you tap on it, you see a sample score, you see a listing of the pieces, and in most cases, you'll see a video. Now, sometimes the publisher doesn't want to let a video out there that's going to play all the pieces all the way through, and you just get little excerpts. But either way, you'll get a sense for what's in the album. All you have to do is tap on the video and play it. And you could even scrub through it and say, yeah, I'd like to see what does Mary's Calypso sound like, and start the playback there. So there are a number of different ways to explore what's available in the store. If you look very carefully and up on the upper area, on my screen it says this album is already installed and is up to date. Well, normally there would be a nice big blue message there that tells you what the price is, and you simply tap on it and you could make a purchase of that album. By the way, these micro jazz Christmas pieces from Christopher Norton are absolutely wonderful. You might find the titles or the subtitles, beginner to intermediate and then intermediate to advanced, to be a little optimistic as to what constitutes beginner music. I think the term here is being used in reference to, well, beginner compared to concert artists, perhaps. These pieces have a lot inside them. So I'm just going to give you a brief verbal overview of the publishers that in the store that have Christmas pieces, and then we're going to just dive right into them themselves. So 88 Piano Keys has a nice piece that we're going to take a listen to. There are a number of albums from Alfred, Boozy and Hawkes we've already mentioned, Bradley Sowash Music. There are 2 albums of jazzy arrangements with duet accompaniments for piano. Carol Matt's piano. Did I mention Alfred? I went over that anyway. She's in 2 locations. She has publications from Alfred and publications under her own name. Hal Leonard has quite a number of tunes that are very contemporary. They're copyrighted materials with wonderful backing tracks. JLA Music is the place where you'll find this wonderful album for Recorder, which we'll be talking about. And further on down, there are some Christmas pieces in 2 different sets of albums from Music for Young Children. The ensembles and keyboard supplemental. Ogilvy Music has many albums that are for advanced keyboard ensembles. Then there's Piano Safari with 4 wonderful graded albums of piano solos. And there's a couple more in here, and I'm going through them so quickly I've probably missed them, like Music Perceptions, I should have mentioned, has some easier piano ensembles. But we'll catch up with all that as we go through this in a more organized manner. Now, when I'm doing a gig, I usually set up my gig by creating what's known as a custom collection. And as you can see, I've got a number of different collections that I've made here. Many of them have to do with webinars that I've given. And one is for today's presentation, Christmas presentation. And in this collection, I have put the music that I have picked from all of these albums, which enables me just to go through them one by one by one. And this feature of using a custom collection is something that my students always do with their musical assignments. This enables them to keep track of the pieces that they know and that they want to keep on playing, as well as the current assignment. And oftentimes they'll even put in some additional pieces that are the ones to which they aspire in the next couple of months. So we started by taking a look at 2 pieces from Christopher Norton's Micro Jazz set. And this included a piece from the, let's see, yeah, I was looking at the small print there. The beginner, so-called beginner to intermediate level. And we heard some of Jingle Bell Rock. You'll notice in the upper left corner now I've got 2 little buttons with arrows on them, enabling me to go forward or backwards in this custom list that I've made. This is the cover of the next album, which is the Intermediate to Advanced Pianist in the Micro Jazz Christmas Collection. And the opening piece that we had heard from that series is Deck the Halls. So what I'd like to do is to move on to an Alfred publication. It's actually, this is the 5th, or I think maybe even the 6th book in a series called Famous and Fun Christmas Duets that were published by Alfred, all arranged by Carol Matz. And that initial duet that you heard my students playing was this one, Silent Night. And this is what it looks like. It was from the top level, level 5. First thing to note is that when we go to the parts menu, we've got the option of turning on or off the display of any particular part. And so if a student or just an individual who wants to be able to play this as a duet, wants to practice their part by themselves, they don't need to take up screen real estate seeing the other part. They can just look at their own part at any size that they wish, and they have the opportunity to play along, and they could just mute the playback of their part and hear the accompaniment and play along with it. This particular arrangement has a count off that's there. So hopefully I have my speaker turned down. I could barely hear it myself, but you should have heard a little count off and then the secondo part. And the idea would be that you would be playing along with the primo part. And we do have these interactive playback modes, which I won't spend much time on today, called Learn, Jam, and Perform. But in these modes, the SuperScore app will actually be responsive to your playing. In Learn mode, it will wait for you to play the correct note. In Jam mode, it'll wait for you to play the first note, and then you got to keep up. In Perform mode, it will track your tempo, which is pretty neat. And speaking of tempo, you can, of course, always set the tempo that is the one that's going to work out best for you. So let's take another look at one of the pieces in this series. We'll go back several levels to Book 2 from this famous and fun Christmas duets. And the point that I want to emphasize here is that Carol Matz, in her famous and fun duets, has done an extraordinarily good job of truly making them equal part duets. And when I say equal parts, I'm referring to two different aspects of the music. One aspect is that they're both equally hard or equally easy, depending upon your point of view. The other is that both parts will get an opportunity to play the tune. So it's not as though one part is always subservient to the other musically. So let's listen to I Saw Three Ships. So moving ahead to Famous and Fun Christmas Level 4, this is now a solo album, and she's done a parallel series in the Alfred publications, parallel to the duet series where it goes from levels 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. One was these equal part duets. The second is examples of solos. And she is always so good with textures. And in this particular case, she's been very clear about how to pedal the piece and finger it. Let's listen to a bit of Coventry Carol. And I'm going to move ahead to the next section that's arranged a little differently. And so forth. Very nice arrangements from Carol. And if you like her music, you should not only look for her in the Alfred area in our store, but also in the Carol Matz music section, because she has published independently. And I'd like to show you a couple of these publications. This is at a more advanced level. It's a very nice solo arrangement of Angels We Have Heard on High. I'll stop it there after those wonderful falling fifths progressions. So that's one example of a solo that she's published. She also has several of the tunes from the Nutcracker by Tchaikovsky that you can buy as solos or a bundled group of 4 of them. And I'd like to show these to you. They're obviously seasonable to Christmas, the winter scene, and so forth, but are not of a strictly Christmas nature. Um, and they're pieces that everybody universally enjoys. And she does a really, really good job in her arrangements of capturing the sense of the orchestrated timbres from Tchaikovsky's original ballet. And I'd like to give you several examples here. And so forth. And you can see the way she uses the range of the keyboard very effectively. It's a good simulation of the original. Here's a bit of the famous march from the ballet. And I'd like to point out that what she's done here to keep the notation simple is that at the very beginning, where the tempo is marked moderately, she puts in parenthesis uneven eighths. So we're really trying to work towards a dotted eighth, 16th rhythm. But later on in the piece, there needs to be what are marked as even eighths. So very subtly in this arrangement, a student who otherwise might be kind of confused about going back and forth between a dotted type of a rhythm and even division of the beat will be able to do this very neatly and cleanly because the notation is very clear and they're just intuitive directions for performance that go along with it. The Russian dance is quite exciting. And I want to mention that with all of these pieces, and this may not come across clearly over Zoom, but they're all recorded quite musically. And in a case like this, where there's an intention that you should be increasing the speed as you get near the end, the performance that's embedded in the SuperScore file will actually do that. And finally, a little bit here of the Waltz of the Flowers. And so forth. So great stuff from Carol Matz. Now back to Alfred as the publisher. I want to give you a taste of something that's a little bit different. This is an album that was done a number of years ago by Kenan Renfro, a college professor, and called A Merry Little Christmas. And here's an example piece. Now this can be done purely as a solo. And in the lower right corner, where it's a little hidden under my Christmas ornament there, is a speaker icon that's enabling me to mute any backing tracks. If I tap the parts menu, you'll see there are a lot of backing tracks here, and I've just muted them all. And so just as a solo, you would have this. So forth. But if you were to let the backing tracks be a play-along opportunity, you'd have this kind of fun to work with. I really enjoy doing a lot of my teaching with music that has backing tracks, so I find that it really enables my students to build a rhythmic vocabulary, I should say, into their whole being. So when they see rhythms on the page, they know what they're going to sound like, and their fingers respond accordingly. And it's those backing tracks that are just very steady that do a lot to promote that. And of course, in the case of these holiday tunes, they provide an awful lot of fun. Now, speaking of backing tracks, this is from book 2 of Bradley Sowash's A Jazzy Christmas series that's available in SuperScore. And this has been done for really a piano student at a late elementary level with somewhat advanced teacher accompaniment that really jazzes things up here. Let's take a listen to it. So the student here is learning how to play with a swing feel on the eighth notes, and at the same time is benefiting from um, getting that ensemble kind of sound into their ear for more advanced music yet to come. Now, we do have a search feature in the store, and if I were to just go back to the store for just a moment and tap on the magnifying glass, I could type in here go tell, and note that there are a number of albums that have the words go and tell in the title. If I were to surround that with, got to get the shift key down here, quotation marks, my search would be limited to that. Oops, come on. Why isn't my, I'm trying to get the shift key to work here on my, there we go. Anyway, the search would limit the search, to be a little redundant there, to those words in that order, go, tell. And then you would be able to find the different albums that have that tune in it. I'd like to show you a different treatment of that at a much higher level. This is from 88 Piano Keys. It's an arrangement by Leela Viss, who is the publisher at 88 Piano Keys, a wonderful pianist, and it's her own performance of her own arrangement here. And I'm going to skip ahead, get to the primary melody. And I'll have to pause it there. So it's another illustration of what I like so much about the larger body of Christmas and holiday music that we have in SuperScore, is that there's such a large variety of musical styles that are represented, as well as playing levels. And sometimes publishers get especially creative. This is the first Noel published and arranged by Andrew Harbridge, a Canadian composer and publisher. I'm going to play just a bit of this, and then I'm going to show you something special that comes along with the music. And if we just browse through it, you'll notice that it gets up to a rather arousing moment later on in the piece. I'm going to pause there. In this particular piece, if you looked around the SuperScore screen while it was being played, you would notice an unusual button in the upper right corner. This is a button that's appearing more and more frequently now in a lot of SuperScore publications. It's a video button. And this particular piece does have a video, which I'm going to pause it immediately. And the idea behind this video, which is described in the print, or it's not really print material, but the PDF component of this that you see on the SuperScore screen, it tells you how you can use this video, if you've memorized the piece, project it onto a screen, and there's a cue in the video, a very subtle cue as to where you would start playing. And the idea would be that you can play rather flexibly, more or less at the tempo that's embedded in SuperScore, and your performance would work out very nicely with this video. So here's just a snippet of the video experience. And that's a good spot to pause. It's really a very beautifully done video, and it does point up that kind of amusing aspect of Christmas that so many of us associate Christmas with wintertime and snow by virtue of where we live on this planet, even though snow really had nothing to do with the original event that inspired the holiday. But it's certainly part of everybody's tradition. So moving on, I'll point out that Andrew has also done a Christmas album called Christmas, Christmas for the elementary pianist that has some nice little extras in it. For example, you can page through this and you could use the pencil tool, the drawing tool in SuperScore. Pretty simple to tap on that button and decide, I'm going to see, can I get myself through this maze? Where would I be going? And try to figure your way through. Maybe I'll change my color. Maybe I'll delete that altogether. I'll move on. There's a kind of a note speller. There's a word search that's associated with the season. Another note speller, poem. So some nice fun extras that go along with the music. And here's an example of Jingle Bells. Now it does have some nice jingling bells in the accompaniment, which can be turned off. But this is what it sounds like if it's all together for student and teacher. Student playing an octave higher. Pause it there. Now, if we go on over to The Joy of Christmas from Piano Safari, in this case, the Book 1 elementary arrangements, this would be a good moment to look at another treatment of Jingle Bells. Now, this one does have a teacher or advanced player accompaniment. By default, it's not showing, but if you go to the parts menu, you could show it, and whoops, I tapped it twice here, and bring it up. That's what it's going to look like. But I'm going to take it off the screen, and you can just imagine this as something for a student to be practicing and learning their part. And when they're at home, there's no teacher at home, but they can basically take the teacher home with them. And hopefully that little chordal riff brought a smile to your faces. It certainly did to mine. There are a lot of neat musical surprises in this arrangement. Let's take a look at level 4 in the Joy of Christmas series from Piano Safari. And in this case, a beautiful arrangement of Joy to the World by Christopher Fisher, who's a college professor in Ohio. And it's kind of an interesting arrangement. So often arrangements of Joy to the World are especially boisterous, but this one has a different take. And it is Christopher playing. Now, some of you might be wondering, well, if George Frederick Handel were alive today, what would he think of this arrangement? And my response to that would be, well, he'd probably say, well, that really wasn't my tune after all. It's been widely attributed to George Frederick Handel, but I believe it was written by somebody else. Who, I do not know. So I'd like to take us back to Christopher Norton for a treatment of We Wish You a Merry Christmas. Actually, no, I'm sorry. That is my tune with which we're going to conclude the webinar. The other things I was going to show you, I was going to pick directly out of the library, my library on my iPad. So I'm going to tap on the folder button in the upper left corner of the screen. And I'm going to take a look at my albums here. And the first thing that I wanted to do was to start to take a little bit of a look at keyboard ensembles. So if we go on down to music perceptions, which is right here, and we'll go to Music Experience C, Christmas by Leanne Halverson. These are the materials that are there. And you'll notice if we look at a piece like Over the River and Through the Woods, it's listed there several times. Once for tuba, then drum kit, then banjo, then piano, and so forth. And if we bring this up, this would be the tuba part. If we bring up banjo, whoops, I'm sorry, I tapped in the wrong area here. We would see something that looks like this, etc. There is a full score, which is this. So the idea here is that if a teacher has got a collection of digital instruments in the studio with a variety of built-in sounds. One student could play on a keyboard that has chosen the tuba sound. Somebody else is going to be playing the drum kit. And in case of a drum kit, although you would be reading particular pitches on the screen, those pitches on your keyboard are going to be triggering particular percussive, non-pitched percussive instruments. And there's a banjo part, and then there's a piano solo part. And when it all comes together, you get this. And it's a fun ensemble experience for students. This is actually a component of a larger method that involves this kind of ensemble activity, and there's several levels to it, and this is just a Christmas component of that. Now you notice that as I was going through that, I was choosing a piece and then having to go back into my library and choose another one out of the same album. Normally that you don't do that kind of back and forth. I was choosing from a section of my library specifically called Score Library, and this is the area where when you tap on a publisher folder, you see all of the different albums that were purchased by you, and then you see all of the components of that album, which makes it possible when you're creating custom collections to say, I want this page from this and I want this page from that, and you can mix and match things at will. But when you want to deal with an album all by itself, you would normally go to My Albums, and what would we be looking for here? Let's go back and find out. So we were in Music Perceptions, and we were in this album called Music Experience C, Christmas. Well, if I look for that over here, and I could get there a little faster by using my search button. I have a lot of things to scroll through here. Music Experience C, Christmas. If I were to choose one of these pieces here, now I've got those buttons in the upper left corner that enable me to go from item to item in the album itself. And as you can see, the different SuperScore pages are interspersed with activity pages where students are being asked questions, and hopefully they're going to get into the markup area and write in their answers and that kind of thing. So the publisher I want to look at next is Ogilvy Music, and Ogilvy Music has a lot of ensembles of various sorts, and we're specifically going to be looking for Christmas ones. So there's Away in the Manger, Christmas Day is Here, which is original composition by Dennis Mauricio. A little farther down, we have Jesu Joy of Man's Desiring. That's often done in the Christmas season. And something known as the Renaissance Christmas Suite. I'm going to focus on that today. So I'm going to go back to my albums, and we're going to go down to the R section here and look for this. Now, the ensembles that Dennis has done have been usually at a pretty high level. He's written ensembles that have been done by students who are part of a class in, let's say, at the high school level or at the college level. And so if we look at the parts, this would be what you'd see, and we can go from part to part. There's the full score. Here's another part. So each part is written out separately. We're going to stick with the full score. And this is Bring a Torch, Jeanette Isabella. And following that key change, we'll pause it there. It's very nicely arranged instrumentally. We've got recorder, oboe, lower strings, harpsichord, and then there's the tambourine there in the percussion area, which really gives a very beautiful effect. We heard a bit of a Coventry Carol, I believe, a little earlier today for piano solo. Let's take a look at the full score here in this arrangement. I'm going to skip ahead. So I think Dennis has done a wonderful job of capturing just a much earlier time in our human history, during which there were the traditional Christmas and winter celebrations, and I think the instrumentation really brings that era to life in a very beautiful way, and it's a nice way to get a number of players who have some keyboard facility together and play in an unusual kind of ensemble. Now, having introduced using a keyboard to play things like a recorder line, I'd like to show you briefly, even though most of the people attending today are probably pianists and piano teachers, an album here from JLA Publications. And it's called Christmas Favorites for Soprano Recorder. So I'm going to go back to my album and we'll scroll down to Christmas Favorites for Soprano Recorder. And the nice thing about this is that each piece has a completely different kind of treatment. So you're going to be playing a soprano recorder, and the fingering chart is provided. Here's Angels We Have Heard on High. And if we look at the parts menu, we can see that, oh, this is being accompanied by a brass quartet. Let's see what that's about. And so forth. Now, this is another one of these albums that has something rather special. In the upper right corner, you'll see a film strip button. And if you tap on that, and I'm going to pause the video once it comes up, it's going to suggest that if you play this video, you'll have an opportunity to just pause it at any moment and study the fingering if you're a little uncertain. So if I wasn't sure how to play that treble G, there's the fingering for it. And so it's Jeffrey Edmondson, who did these wonderful arrangements, used our, when I say our, TimeWarp Technologies SuperScore, not SuperScore, Classroom Maestro Orchestra Edition program to illustrate the fingerings on the recorder for this. And so this is something that's available in all of these pieces. And we'll just take a quick listen to some of the others. This one has got a woodwind ensemble. Let's listen to another one briefly. Here's Deck the Hall. And this is all recorders. Actually, let's move on to one that's of a different nature. Oh, we got washboard, banjo, and upright bass for Go Tell It on the Mountain. So the stylistic variety within this one album is really quite remarkable. And I'm going to just take a very brief moment to mention here that as with any SuperScore piece, you can play the part that's written on a traditional acoustic instrument, but when you have a MIDI capable instrument, all sorts of other options arise. And in the case of the recorder, you may or may not be aware that there are MIDI recorders, and this is one from a company called Recorder. That's R-E period quarter. And you can play it acoustically, and it makes its own sound. Or you can put this little mute in it, and when you blow, you don't hear any sound, but you're sending MIDI data into a program that would make sound. And in the case of SuperScore would provide the recorder sound digitally. But in any case, you could use this either acoustically or not, sending MIDI data into SuperScore and take advantage of learn mode. Are you getting the fingering right for that note? And of course, SuperScore would pause and wait for you to get the note correct if you are in learn mode. Okay, well, we're getting close to the end of the hour, and I want to take you over to Hal Leonard, which has a wonderful series, which we have licensed, called More Christmas Piano Solos. Starts off with a pre-staff level, and these are all contemporary tunes with absolutely fantastic backing tracks. And so we're just going to pick some really at random. And there are also written out teacher accompaniments that you could play or not play. And in this case, I've usually got them muted, so you're only hearing the other backing tracks. So it's a wonderful arrangement, and as you can tell, since I let a good bit of it play, that there's just a lot of instrumental variety that takes place within the context of that piece. And I've got to be careful here that I don't play too much of any of these pieces from Hal Leonard for copyright reasons. But let's go on to level one. I remember years ago, the younger of the two boys that we started off with who played that duet, played Blue Christmas when he was at level one. It looks like this. And it was kind of funny in the sense that I think the piece was, with the lyrics and so forth, was written for a somewhat older person than someone, let's say, in the third grade. But nonetheless, he enjoyed the piece and played it. So you get a little taste of that. And if we move on to level two, let's pick out Silver Bells. We'll hear a bit of it. Wonderful orchestrations. In level 3, well, how about I Saw Mommy Kissing Santa Claus? I haven't heard that in a long time. And I think you'll find that this particular series is wonderfully illustrates the fact that SuperScore is such an advanced, well-developed program that we've got just a tremendous library of instrumental sounds that really come to life in the hands of a very fine arranger, such as the arrangers, including Philip Keverin over at Hal Leonard. Santa Claus is Coming to Town from level 4. And lastly, we'll take a look at level 5. What should we choose here? Well, why not Carol of the Bells? And I'll have to stop it there. So I hope you've enjoyed this tour of music that's available for the Christmas and holiday seasons in SuperScore. There is, of course, much more than we've been able to talk about, but we do the best we can in the time that we have, and I hope that this taste of the available recordings will encourage you to explore widely what's available and to put some nice SuperScore music in the stocking for the Christmas season this year. So to conclude the webinar, what I'm going to do after I answer Ellie's question about am I going to mail out a email link for the replay, the answer to that is yes. So everybody who signed up for the webinar will get a notice of that, and the replay will be available on the TimeWarp Technologies website for anyone to see. So Christopher Norton is so good about letting us play his music in these contexts, and I'm going to let him take us out with his version of We Wish You a Merry Christmas. And I will wish you a Merry Christmas, happy holiday season of any sort that you celebrate. And I hope to see you again in cyberspace.